just think about one of my great lessons of going to the balcony. Some years ago, I was working in the country of Venezuela. I was asked by the UN to go there, and it was a time, as today actually, when there were, a million people on the streets demanding the downfall of the president, who was then President Hugo Chavez, and there were a million people on the streets, wanting him to stay in power. It was very polarized, and I went there, and at one point I had a meeting with President Chavez. It was appointed for 9 o'clock at night in the presidential palace. I waited there very patiently with my colleague, Francisco Diaz, and 9:30, 10, 10:30, 11, 11:30. Finally, at midnight, I'm ushered in to see the president, expecting to find him alone, but in fact, he's got his entire cabinet arrayed behind him. And he says, so Bill, here, I have a seat here. Tell me, what's your impression of what's going on here in Venezuela? And I said, well, Mr. President, I've been talking to some of your ministers here. I've been talking to the leaders of the opposition, and it seems to me there's a little bit of progress. As soon as he heard the word progress, he lost it. He said, what do you mean progress? You must be foolish. You're naive. You're not seeing the dirty tricks those traitors on the other side are up to. And he leaned in very close to my face, and he proceeded to shout for approximately 30 minutes. So, here I am, and I'm thinking, I'm not naive, I'm thinking of what I could say back to him, feeling like all this work I'd been doing in Venezuela over the previous year and a half was going down the drain, feeling a little bit embarrassed, whatever. But, that's all going on in any kind of negotiation for us, in any kind of tense situation. But then I remembered a friend of mine who had said, Bill, if you're ever in a tough situation, pinch the palm of your hand. And I said to him, why would I do that? He said, well, because that will give you a momentary pain and will keep you alert. So for whatever reason, I remembered to do that at that particular moment. And I was pinching the palm of my hand and going to the balcony and asking myself the key question, what's my key interest here? What's the prize? Is it really to get into an argument with the president of Venezuela? Is that going to advance things? So I bit my tongue and I just listened to him. And he was well known for being able to go on for 8-hour speeches. But after half an hour of me patiently listening, nodding my head, whatever, he kind of ran out of steam a little bit. And I saw, just watching his body language, his shoulders began to sink. And so he said to me in a slightly weary tone of voice, he said, so Yuri, what should I do? That is the sound of a human mind opening, a very faint sound. And but because if before that, when someone's angry with you, if you try to just use reason, it's a little bit like banging your head against the wall. But that was an opening. And so I said to him, well, Mr. President, I think it's December, it's almost Christmas time. Last Christmas, all the festivities around the country were canceled because of this tension, the conflict. Why not just declare a truce? Let the whole country go to the balcony, as it were. And then in 3 weeks' time, we can resume the conversation. He said, that's an excellent idea. I'm going to propose that in my next speech. His mood had completely shifted because I hadn't reacted. In fact, he said to me, over Christmas, I'd like you to come travel the country with me. If I think it would be good for you to get to know. Then he thought, wait a minute, you're a neutral, you're a mediator. Maybe it wouldn't be so good for you to be seen in my company all the time. He said, but no problem, I'll give you a disguise. And what I learned from that was that maybe the greatest power we have in negotiation is the power not to react. The power not to react. The power to go to the balcony and remember why we're there. That to me is like the foundation of successful negotiation.